Here are 5 things I learned from my conversation with Sarah in episode 2. Number 1, the way we speak about our mental health struggles can either be empowering or disempowering. If you've listened to episode 2 and you've heard Sarah speak, there's a moment where she says, I struggle with depression. She says, I'm not going to say I'm depressed because I don't want to identify with it. And that goes back to my point about living in that place. So for example, instead of saying I have bad anxiety, you might just say sometimes I get anxious. One is a rigid label, the other is a feeling that comes and goes. One is empowering, one is quite disempowering. You're identifying with it, you're associating with it. It's valid that you have anxiety. But the way we speak about these things is so important. Sometimes I struggle with anxiety, or I have bad anxiety. Which one is empowering and which one is disempowering? I think often we look at things as black or white, but actually the majority of things exist within the grey, and this is one of them things. The second thing I learned from my conversation with Sarah in episode 2 is that it's your job. Outsourcing responsibility and expecting others to fix you whilst not acknowledging your role or playing an active role in your own recovery, it makes you powerless. You're giving your power away. Okay, a doctor might be able to prescribe something, but what can you do? What role can you play? Ask yourself that question. When you give all of your power away, this is when we feel quite down and powerless. So, for example, I'll use the anxiety example again. If sometimes you get anxious, it's valid to seek help if that's what you want to do. But you also should ask yourself, what role am I playing in this? When do I feel anxious? When does it come on? When is it at its worst? Is it because I've not been sleeping much lately? Is it because I'm working too much overtime? Is it because I'm not having difficult conversations I know I need to have? Is it because I'm not eating right? What about your environment and your choices is making you feel anxious? So do both things. Think about the role you play, and then think about the support you can get outside of things you can change. Don't give your power away. So the third thing I learned from episode 2 is that teachers deserve more praise. They get so much responsibility, not enough resources, and they've got to support the next generation of young people who are going to lead the country, the world. How are they supposed to adapt to all these different learning styles? How are they supposed to provide mental health support? How can they deal with challenging behaviour? How can they provide individualised support based on a young person's developmental stage, whilst taking care of themselves, having a social life, taking care of the family, taking care of their own well-being, their own children? Teachers need more praise. So the fourth thing I learned from my conversation with Sarah is that one thing that's guaranteed in life is that we're going to face adversity. This is why resilience is so important. Whether you lose a loved one, whether you struggle with your mental health, whether you lose a job, whether you break up with your partner, whatever that is, you will face adversity. That is guaranteed. And in saying this, it's more important how we respond to these events, because how we respond is a choice. So, from a conversation with Sarah, I've learned that she's been through so much, but she used it to fuel herself to do positive things. Now that's powerful. This doesn't mean you shouldn't hurt, you shouldn't be upset, you shouldn't grieve. All of that is so valid and you need to do it. But you have an opportunity to channel that energy and put it into something positive. What an amazing opportunity. So the fifth thing I learned from a conversation with Sarah in episode 2 is that therapy and counselling are not last resorts. They're there to support you when you're struggling. So when you do realise you're struggling, go and seek that support. Whether you're struggling at work, in your relationship, in your personal life, whatever it is, they're there to support you. The proactive beneficial tools for maintaining mental health. Maintaining is the key word. You know, therapy is such a positive step towards personal growth. We need to view it the same as going to the gym, but for our mind. We need to look after our mind the same way we look after our body. And therapy and counselling give us an opportunity to address issues before they escalate into serious problems. You know, therapy should be normalised as an essential part of self-care and maintaining our mental health. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, click here to get the full episode, and don't forget to subscribe.